Today, we're going to talk about a feeling, something that's deeply human but often unspoken. We're talking about the spectator's curse. You know that strange, creeping sensation, right? You're in your room, the door is locked, you're all alone, but you can't shake the feeling that you're being watched. It's like this invisible pressure, a sense that you're on a stage, even when the theater is completely empty. So, where on earth does that feeling come from? Well, here's the twist. What if that spectator, those thousand eyes you feel, what if they aren't on the outside looking in? What if they're actually inside your own head? And that's a really haunting thought. This is the absolute core of the spectator's curse. Because we're self-aware, we can never, ever truly escape being perceived. The audience is built in. It watches from inside our own minds, judging our every move. And this internal spectator wasn't always there. It actually develops over time. I mean, think about it. As a toddler, seeing your reflection is pure magic, right? Hey, that's me. But as we get older, that wonder, it can start to curdle into a burden. Our reflection becomes this thing that needs to be managed and polished and presented just right. We slowly stop just being and we start performing. Now, it turns out this feeling isn't just some weird philosophical quirk. It's actually a core part of how our social identities get formed. A sociologist named Charles Cooley even gave it a name. He called it the looking glass self. The idea is pretty simple, but honestly, it's incredibly profound. We don't really know who we are in a vacuum. Our entire sense of self is built on a reflection, and not our reflection in a mirror, but our reflection in the minds of other people. And this whole invisible process, it happens in a flash, dozens of times a day, and it always follows 3 steps. First, you imagine how you look to someone else, maybe on a video call or in a photo you're about to post. Then, step 2, you imagine their verdict. Are they impressed, bored, annoyed? And finally, step 3, you feel a real emotion, pride or shame, based entirely on a judgment that you just invented inside their head. So what's the consequence of all this? Well, it means that pretty much every interaction can feel like a performance. We find ourselves constantly tweaking our mask, adjusting our personality, curating everything we do just to get a better reflection back from all those human mirrors around us. Now, if you think that's a bit unsettling, a philosopher named Jean-Paul Sartre took this whole idea and pushed it to a much darker, much more intense place. He called it the gaze. You've almost definitely heard this quote before. Hell is other people. But it's one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of philosophy. No, it's not just about other people being annoying. It's about something way, way deeper. Sartre really breaks this down in his play No Exit. See, he puts 3 characters in a locked room for all eternity. The catch? There are no mirrors, so the only way they can know anything about themselves is through what the other 2 people say about them. That is their hell, being completely and totally defined by the gaze of others, trapped in a reflection that they have absolutely no control over. And that right there, that's the point when this constant awareness stops feeling like a helpful social tool and starts feeling like a trap. It becomes this invisible prison where you're both the inmate and the guard, constantly performing a version of yourself for an audience that might not even be paying attention. So what does this prison actually look like in real life? Okay, let's imagine a guy we'll call Tyler. He moves to a new city, he's totally disconnected from his old life. He desperately needs new anchors, new ways to define himself so that other people can, define him too. So a coworker casually mentions that the nightlife scene is how people plug in here. So boom, Tyler starts going out, feeling this intense pressure to perform social confidence. Then someone else implies that real success requires discipline, so he pivots hard into this grueling fitness culture to project an image of control. You see, he isn't actually choosing these identities, he's just frantically adopting them in response to what he thinks people expect of him. And man, is this exhausting. It creates this constant internal battle. You're trying to be an artist, obsessively sculpting a perfect version of you, while at the same time, you're also being a security guard, frantically protecting that sculpture from any flaws or ugly truths that just don't fit the image you're trying to project. But maybe the whole project is just doomed from the start. I mean, we're trying so hard to present this solid, consistent version of ourselves. But what if the self isn't solid at all? What if it's just a chaotic, inconsistent patchwork of moods? Trying to control it is like trying to make the weather predictable. It's just not going to happen. Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, I know, but here's the turning point. Here's the hope. If we are trapped in a prison that we built ourselves, well, that means we also hold the key. It turns out the doors are actually open. This completely reframes Sartre's entire idea. The prison isn't other people. It's our dependency on their imagined judgment. The torture is self-inflicted. And if that's true, it means liberation is absolutely possible. So how do we get out? Well, the way out is a little counterintuitive. It's not about trying harder to perform authenticity, because that's just another performance, right? The real secret is to simply let go. To stop demanding that the reflection staring back at you has to be perfect and consistent and flawless all the time. So what does that actually look like? It looks like giving yourself permission. Permission to be a walking contradiction. Permission to not make sense to everyone, or even to yourself sometimes. It's about embracing this humble, for now self. This is who I am today, and hey, that might change tomorrow. It is the amazing, profound freedom that you feel when you stop performing and just start existing. Because the second you stop needing the audience's approval, the spectator in your head loses all of its power. The lights in that empty theater finally go dark. The weight just lifts, and you realize the cage was never actually locked to begin with. You are and you always have been free.